Okay. That's audio output,
Right, so do we
audio
have
input.
a character sheet thing for Fabula Ultima, like an online fillable one?
I've honestly found it easier to just type it.
I don't know if I have an online fillable one. Let me see what I have, and I'll toss it your way. 1 second.
While we're doing this, everyone, hello and welcome to the Story Told's little Twitch segment, Building Character. If you've joined us before, my name is Logan. I have with me Dave, who is down at the bottom. And in the middle is Jarn. He will be our GM for our upcoming AP of Fabula Ultima. We're very excited about that. But before we get into what we're doing here today, we are proud members of the D20 Radio Network, as well as partnered with Fool's Moon Entertainment. You'll find details about those in our socials. In addition to that, if you go to Fanroll Dice by Metallic Dice Games and enter the code StoryTold10 into your order, you'll receive 10% off, which is very, very exciting. So yeah. Jordan, why don't you introduce yourself and a little bit about you real quick before we jump into why we're on Building Character tonight?
I'm Just Jarn. You can find me Just Jarn on Blue Sky as well as Instagram and on Start Playing. I host a lot of Fabula Ultima games on Start Playing as well. But aside from that, I've been GMing for a while now. I don't know. People consider me professional, but I mean, I'm just like, I just enjoy the craft. I love GMing, and for the most part, there's not much else to say about me. I love telling stories. I have a lot of cool experiences, and I love to promote games that I think are noteworthy, kind of like Fabula Ultima.
Fabula Ultima is pretty freaking cool. It is probably in terms of like I've noticed a lot of like Japanese inspired TTRPGs lately, and I feel like it's sitting at the forefront. It is like the one to beat in my experience, in my reception experience, and what I've seen. I'm sure there's tons of other good ones I don't know about out there, but Fabula Ultima is really special. It is really, really special. I'm very excited we get to bring it to you, listeners, to see and for us to play. A little bit about the stream is it's going to be called Echoes of the Past, correct?
No, Fabula Ultima Echoes. Just Fabula Ultima Echoes.
Fabula Ultima Echoes, sweet. Okay, into that. That's very cool. We're going to be playing a little bit of techno fantasy. So when I say that, if you've listened to our review of it, techno fantasy is one of the atlases, one of the genres that you can play. We'll talk about what that means here in just a second. And then let's see. It's going to be a limited run AP. We're going to try something new to see if we can get full campaign arcs. We're always trying to improve here at the Story Told, do different things, see what works for us, and continue to grow as we've grown for these past 7 years. So, first things first, Dave, welcome to. I don't mean to ignore you. You look lovely sitting there. Good to see you, my friend. Jorn, explain techno fantasy a little bit, like in a broad brushstrokes, maybe a little bit about the 8 pillars of it, however you want to explain it.
So techno fantasy, for the most part, covers kind of like the dystopian future where normally like a mega corporation or even in space, like some, party that has a lot of resources tries to keep other individuals down. And basically, in short, techno fantasy is the struggle, fighting up and rising up against these powers that control or have monopoly on resources, abilities, space travel, things like that. And for the most part, it's the story of the little guy trying to rise up and fight for justice in a world where technically injustice is the call of the day. If anything, think of it like Final Fantasy VII, which I think is kind of like the biggest one. Maybe Xenogears would be added into that as well.
Very cool, very cool. So we're not actually making characters that will be playing in the game necessarily, or maybe we will. We'll see what happens. But we're not making our main characters. So the initial idea was to make some NPCs for Jarn to use. Jarn has come up with a much cooler idea. He was explaining it a little bit to me. So Dave and I are just going to be making some characters. And we'll kind of leave it at that, and you'll get to see what that means if you watch the stream. So, Jordan, how do you want to start character creation? I know there's like the traditional way to do it with world creation and then character creation, but how do you want to go about this tonight?
Well, let's first and foremost, Fabula Ultima is about at least for session 0, it's about player agency and players working with the GM to add their own narrative twist and spins to the story overall. Normally, in a normal setting, like in a session 0, if we were playing today, we would actually be sitting down and building the world as we go along. This is everybody would participate in adding some aspect to the world, be it history, peoples, locations, wonders, anything of that sort would be added into the narrative, because again, this is a joint effort amongst all the players. For today specifically, just because we're trying to get into the player characters, I've already set up kind of the idea. We're going to be creating these characters for a world where there's a megalopolis known as Emir, which kind of controls all of the resources within the world. The only things that it doesn't control are these specific locations or well springs where the elemental powers still reside. But again, what I would like you guys to do, and I think it's going to be fun for you guys, is let's go ahead. Let's look at techno fantasy, what type of character you would want to build, and how would you how would you put or intertwine your character's history and past into this world that we're putting together right now. And so I'm going to actually go ahead and turn it towards you guys. Actually, no, sorry, hold on. So fundamentally speaking, there's 8 pillars, which is it's a big thing within Fabula Ultima, which kind of covers how the world should be seen, right? How you should set up the world. There's a lot of different ways of playing Fabula Ultima. There's a lot of different approaches to Fabula Ultima. The 8 pillars kind of tries to keep everything organized enough for you guys to be able to build upon the world together. With the 8 pillars of techno fantasy, again, it's covering mostly the aspects of a dystopian future. You have, an enemy that has, immense power that can, uses it to crush the people beneath it, to keep them, ground down. And for the most part, you're building into this world where you want to fight back. You want to be able to, whether you're in touch with nature and the elements, and that's how you're fighting back, or you're infused with some magic. And again, you want to push back to help out others. The idea is that you want to fight back against this element. So technically we could go through all the 8 pillars, but I honestly believe that you guys jumping into your characters would probably set the precedence in a better way for people to understand how player characters are created in Fabula Ultima.
Okay, cool. Well, okay, so are we going to go step by step like the book presents, or do you have a way that you like to do it?
Well, you know what? Let's go ahead, and if anyone's following along with the TTRPG Fabula Ultima core book, you can turn to page 154. There actually are 8 questions, which we will start putting together to create our character. So first question, and this one I'm going to turn towards Dave. I haven't forgotten about you, Dave. What is the identity of your character? Just to let you know, and this is for everyone out there, identity and theme are very important and significant, because not only does it make your character unique within the world, who they are, it kind of identifies them a little bit, but identities and themes can be used with Fabula points in order to re-roll whenever you mess up on a roll, or your roll just didn't hit the target number you're looking for. You can actually use a Fabula point to invoke your identity and theme, and you use it to kind of show why your character's pushing themselves a little bit harder to try to get that better roll. So Dave, identity for your character.
I'm going to be the bad player that came to the table not prepared for the session. So, I don't know, techno fantasy. Drawn to that whole, you gotta love the little guy fighting up. So, trying to think about what I would go with. Probably.
By the way, it's a short. It's a short sentence, a few key words, just to kind of emphasize where your character, where they're at, who they are. Whatever identifying information you want to provide.
Yeah. So, essentially, kind of like a core concept, right?
Correct.
All right. So we could look at someone that trying to think. How would we describe this person? Probably just a very young, eager to prove themselves, a rebel. Someone that definitely is part of the fight too. Doesn't know quite how to take down the system, but wants to do it. They're eager. They are full of gusto, piss and vinegar, and they want to take it down. Always like that
Awesome.
term, piss and vinegar.
I'm into it. Wait, that sounded weird.
Yes. we talked did we talk earlier about having to review your kinks?
Yeah, well. Uh-oh, this
So-
is one on YouTube. That's forever.
So I would go ahead and say, if anything, right now, what you should do is consider, and again, hotshot, optimist, free spirited, kind of use a combination of those keywords to create that identity, which again, it kind of just covers the character overall. If someone were to just be, this is the best way to describe this character in one short sentence. By the way, also just letting anyone know who is listening, you guys can actually, in the book on the next page, actually on 156, it actually gives you several keywords that you can roll for if you want to just roll randomly to create your character. But yeah, definitely identity plays into the character, just kind of gives you an overall idea of the character. Dave.
I love these tables a lot. They're so much fun. Like if you just want to see what happens.
Oh, for sure. And honestly, it's never a bad thing to just go ahead and just randomly roll up a character, because eventually you're going to find out that you're going to fall in love with your character anyways. Like, that's always happens. I've never created a character. I'm like, I don't like this guy. No, I was like, I really like this guy. So the next, actually, hold on, and I do apologize, Logan. What's the identity for your character within Emir?
So I wrote down steadfast innkeeper, because it started off as like thinking about this like person who like ran an inn, but then I kept coming back to war veteran. So I'm doing haunted royal soldier is kind of my identity, or haunted ex soldier. I kind of think she's retired. I think she was like in this last major war that might have happened, and is a little bit of a grizzled veteran. I think she's probably younger than she acts, but she's not young. I'm thinking maybe like early 30s.
Excellent. I'm going to say you have very Final Fantasy VII vibes there, and I love it. All we need to do is have her grab like a really big sword that she can't possibly wield with her body, and just make it happen. Excellent. So that is identity. The next thing that we're going to jump into, and this is actually question number 2, is theme. Theme is basically the aspect that kind of defines what the character is after. Basically their motivation. So theme, they have suggested themes just to kind of give you guys an idea. And this again is in the book on page 158 of the core book. A couple of suggested themes: ambition, anger, belonging, doubt, duty, guilt, hope, justice, mercy, vengeance. So out of all those, or if perhaps you have something else you would like to pitch, what is a theme for your character, Logan?
I actually went ahead and chose duty. I think she really believed in the ideals of the Empire. She's from Emir itself. Her family's always been soldiers or involved in the ideals of the country she came from, but she's very disillusioned now. And so her duty now is to like helping young soldiers who are coming back from skirmishes, who are having trouble adjusting, to helping, the people of Emir when she can. I see her as very kind, but it's all rooted in living up to the ideals of a nation that didn't live up to her.
Excellent. Love that. Dave, what about your character?
I mean, I'm kind of looking at a couple of these themes, and it feels like I'm kind of like picking which way to go with them, because I feel like anger and hope would definitely be two that sing to that like rebellious hotshot kind of feel. But I might have to go down the darker one, and maybe anger. Maybe this is not so much a fight for a better world type character, but he's just angry at the world, the way the world is. And so, and I like that. I like the way you kind of have to pick that path there. Are you going to go down the one where it's we want to make a better world for everyone, or maybe it's just I want to tear down the system, and maybe we'll start with that. We'll go with the, maybe the idealism is just masking that anger.
Oh, and even the better thing about all of this is that again, the theming is just like the overview. It's just a brief summarization because we don't know why you're angry, and we could figure out why the character is angry through gameplay. So it always opens up the possibility of finding out why that fire is stoked. But yeah, excellent.
Jarn will be my character's therapist.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, a good GM is kind of like a therapist, right? Wait, don't answer that.
Please don't put that on me. I've already had to deal with Dave in another game. It's been interesting, to say the least.
Dave, we love
but in
you.
a good way.
Those are tears. Those tears weren't real. Okay.
So at this point, we're going to turn to number 3. Now, number 3 is another aspect of your theme and identity as a character, which is origin. Where does your character come from? Now, Emir is a megapolis of a city. It's huge. This thing stretches from horizon to horizon. And I think I even wrote to you guys that some people have lived their entire lives within the shadow of Emir, never knowing its full extent, never seeing the horizon beyond the cityscape. So what I would actually offer in terms of origin, unless you really want to be from somewhere outside of Emir, kind of brought into the city, you definitely can. Another aspect I would actually offer, or in this case, is maybe you're from a neighborhood, or maybe you're from one specific sector or one specific section of the city that your character would hail from. What makes that, location special or interesting to you? And I'm going to go ahead and pitch this one towards Dave because we did Logan last time first.
So I kind of, so we're gonna go with building on the themes of the hot shot and anger. I kind of like, we could go with kind of a working class sort of neighborhood within the city. I kind of like the idea though that maybe the anger is not so. Because we obviously could go for like, the slums, or he grew up there. But I kind of like the idea that the anger is not so obvious. So maybe it was something where I kind of like the idea of like maybe like a factory setting, or like his family was kind of that I don't know, maybe they worked in like maybe something like a Mecca thing, or like a whole neighborhood that's almost dedicated, kind of like how they used to have those towns in the United States that were just all like coal farmers, or like they were all dedicated to like one factory kind of setting. Like they all built like trucks or something. So maybe this was something that they dealt a lot with the elemental powers, and they built like maybe some large weaponry or mechas or something like that.
So in keeping in line with like, again, the techno fantasy, something like that probably wouldn't be offered like a beautiful poetic name. It'd just probably be like manufacturing, manufacturing line 12B or something to that effect.
Yeah.
And that's basically how like the location would be, because again, they wouldn't waste time and resources to give it a poetic name. So if you want to just come up with something very generic, and that's the location of where your character comes from, your origin, which plays in really well into this character.
Yeah, I like the idea that maybe among the people from there, like I like the idea that if we call like line 12B or something, but maybe they call it the slag because they think it sounds cool to them. Kind of like those kids in school that kind of gave themselves a name they thought sounded really neat.
Oh,
but
for
like,
sure.
I could see it. They're like, yeah, we're from the slag, and everyone else is like, where? Oh, 12B. Yeah, okay, we got you.
Awesome. Yeah, definitely put that down on the paper. I love it. It's actually a great idea. And so we're going to turn towards Logan.
Right.
Logan, what is your character's origin?
So my character is definitely from Amir. I think many generations, solidly, not obviously ruling class, but like part of that elite, or her family was part of that elite circle. I think they probably came from, I'm trying to think of a name for this district, like the Platea district or something. Probably known for being people who ran manufacturing plants rather than worked in manufacturing plants. I think maybe her family probably dealt with medicinal tech of some variety, or maybe maybe armor for combat medics. I'm really leaning into that combat medic thing. Maybe scientists dealing with how to blend tech and magic together. for greater results. Maybe hands on a lot of pies. But she's from the Platea district, which is people of that level. She, however, doesn't live there anymore. When she left the army with her money, I think she bought an inn. Maybe she bought an inn in the Slag, and maybe that's where she lives and works now. I think that can be.
Oh, that'd be
cool.
nice.
That's exactly where she wants, like the kind of people she wants to be helping.
Wow, someone kind of gets out of war, goes and decides, man, I want to go hang out with those losers over there in the Slag. I'm kidding, Dave.
What?
No, that's actually really cool. But I mean, yeah, so Origin just kind of demonstrates where your character comes from. Kind of like, again, it will affect your character and their story as they, maneuver through Emir. Like this could be like, oh, when you find a connection, oh, I would know that person, or is there a chance that I could know that person? And again, Fabula points, a meta currency that allows players to change aspects of the story. So it's just like, yeah, you're going to be fighting this boss and he's like the big gang leader of, the Slag. And it's just like, wait, I come from the Slag. I know him. And you can spend a Fabula point and change that aspect. So things like that, which again are going to fundamentally help in putting your character into the world, as well as offering ways for you to interact with the world in a meaningful way.
Awesome. Very cool.
So we're going to jump right into number 4, which is classes. So Fabula Ultima starts off at level 5. You get to go ahead and select 2 or 3 classes, 2 minimum, 3 at max. And you have 5 levels that you can go ahead and distribute those 5 levels upon the classes. With that, let me go ahead and turn to the page of the classes. So in terms of classes, there are many, many classes that you can choose from the core book. The Techno Fantasy book actually introduces 3 new classes, but it's the fact that you can pick and choose which of these classes you want in order to kind of get your the character that you're looking to create. Don't think that any of the classes are technically a primary class. They all work together to add, benefits and as well as techniques and abilities that your character would have access to. Mm-hmm. But usually most people kind of align their overview of their character with their main profession. Not that it's terrible or anything like that. It's interesting. And so from all the classes you have, and I'm going to just read these real quick. Again, please don't be overwhelmed. It's just a lot. You're going to have the Arcanist, who summons magical avatars of ancient godlike entities known as Arcanum. The Chimerist, learns spells from creatures and speak with beasts. Blue Mage for the Final Fantasy fans out there. Dark Blade unleashes dark attacks and draws power from bonds. We're going to touch upon that in a minute. Allows you to equip martial melee weapons and armors. Elementalist, wield the destructive power of the elements. Vivi, for all the fans out there. Entropist, channel the dark energy of the cosmos. This is using like time magic. Fury, provoke enemies and hit harder when damage. Allows you to equip martial weapons and armor. Guardian, protect your allies in fight clad in heavy armor. Allows you to equip martial armor and shields. Lore Master, be a master of knowledge and support your allies. Funny enough, study is such a useful ability in this game. I will definitely talk at length of how great study is, but study definitely should be on someone's roster when creating a character because it's so helpful.
Wait, what's study?
Study is an ability. You can take an action to study a opponent once per battle.
Oh, gotcha.
You go ahead and you roll a D10. You roll insight. I do apologize. With a TN of 10, 7, 10, 13. And if you roll like over 13, you get all this information about the monster or the opponent.
Cool.
Nothing more beautiful than having an elementalist that knows the weakness or the vulnerability that an opponent has and them exploiting it to deal double the damage. It is like,
I think I remember that ability from like a Final Fantasy game. Like, was it Final Fantasy 3 or something? I can almost remember the character having that ability.
Yeah, It appears in a lot of the Final Fantasy games to kind of learn the enemies, but the real thing, and again, by the way, this game Fabula Ultima tries to emulate the JRPG of the 90s and 2000s kind of feel. When you're playing this game, if you can exploit the vulnerabilities of an enemy, you just make your life easier. You make your friends' lives easier. Everybody loves you. The monster goes down like lickety split. It is the most amazing thing ever. And if you can if you can use study.
Okay. Noted.
So moving on, we're going to go to Orator. Use your words to gain allies and influence conflicts. Rogue, seize opportunities and steal unique items from enemies. Sharpshooter, excel at range combat and negate range attacks. Allows you to equip martial range weapons and shields. Spiritist, support your allies with magic and cast light spells. Tinkerer, craft inventions and use inventory points in new ways. Wayfarer, be master explorer and join forces with a loyal companion. And finally, Weapon Master, excel at melee combat and counter melee attacks. Allows you to equip martial melee weapons and shields. Just real quick, I'm going to note this as you guys are considering your characters. So, Fabula Ultima, again, tries to provide a lot of player agency to the players as they're engaging in different objectives, in different situations versus opponents, etc. All of the classes that are aligned to magic, Chimerist, Elementalist, Entropist, etc., they tend to all have the access to rituals. Rituals are abilities that the player comes out and kind of envisions. And I'm actually going to share a story from one of my games. They're fighting these flying fish, and the flying fish were flying, so most of their characters could not attack the flying fish because fly is this thing where if you don't have ranged weapons, they're invincible. And so all the players are like, yeah, we can't really do much of anything. So one of the players comes on and goes, oh, I'm going to do a ritual, and I'm going to summon the enemy, like the natural predator to these fish, to scare them. And so goes through, starts doing the ritual. One of the other players jumps in, goes, hey, I'm going to involve a lot of my MP points. I want to help out as well. Ended up critting, which is when you roll double sixes, double sevens, double eights, and higher. Critting. And I said, what would you like to do with the illusion? And they said, illusion? We're summoning the real thing. Yo. Somehow we ended up calling it an abyssal whale. It came into being. The thing fell into the water. It splashes everywhere. The fish, fly off. And I was just like, yo, this game knows what it wants. It knows what it wants its players to do.
Cool.
And then finally, I was going to touch upon Tinker. Again, I'm not going to go into depth with it. Tinker is a very interesting class. It has a thing called projects where you can actually craft almost anything that you can design in your head. You as a tinker can create it into the real world. They also have a lot of cool items that they can mess around with, which is like the magic tech cannon, the magic tech bombs and potions and things like that. But Tinker has projects which, if you're a person that loves to just come up, I want to come up with a really cool giant buster blade, clouds for my character that ignites on fire and has a jet up right behind it. That is for you. Tinker is your character.
Sweet. Cool.
So out of all those classes, you guys, and again, the additional 3 from Techno Fantasy, which is the Esper, the Pilot, as well as the Mutant, you guys get to decide whether you want 2 of those classes, or which of 2 of those classes you would like, or which 3 you want to divvy up those 5 levels. Logan, we'll start with you.
Okay, yeah, cool. I'm going hyper-focused with this character, so I chose 2. I put 3 in Lore Master and 2 in Spiritist.
Awesome. And what 3 skills did you pick up in Lore Master? Because that's another thing about classes, is that as you level them up, you get to access their abilities. Each class brings a robust amount of different abilities, and all the abilities have what is known, well, not all, most have an aspect known as skill level, which you can actually add points to increase and make stronger over time.
Mm-hmm. So first things first, the free benefit I got from Lore Master is increasing my maximum mind points by 5. I'm assuming we'll get those added up here in a little bit. But for my 3 skills, I chose Focused twice, because you can choose it up to 5 times. And that gives me an extra 6 mind points. And when I perform an open check using Insight, like with that Study skill, I gain a bonus equal to my skill level on that check. So I get it basically a +2 on that check naturally. Which is badass! And then for the third point, I took Trained Memory. You may perfectly recall the details of any scene you have visited within the past week. You can go back in time with your mind in order to examine and investigate such scenes again. Your Flash of Insight skill will apply to these memories as well. Now, I didn't take Flash of Insight, that's something I might pick up later, but I thought that was really cool, especially for this combat medic that I'm envisioning, like in the Royal Army, like just having this memory like this, like they could go back and know exactly how to do something, how to perform a surgery, how to find something, like maps, that sort of thing. I think it'd be a very important skill for them to have.
Oh, for sure. Also, you kind of hit on a great point. When you pick classes, each class brings a free benefits attached to them. So you're going to notice like the martial classes tend to bring health point buff, usually by 5 points. Classes that are more kind of like magical or more educated, like in terms of lore and stuff like that, they tend to bring like more mind points. Some of the martial classes do bring the ability for you to use martial weapons, and some of the magical classes allow you to have access to rituals, from the offset. So definitely kind of adds a little benefits, and we will calculate that into the character sheet later on. But yeah, nice choice of abilities. Now that you know about Study, I hope you're going to exploit that as much as possible.
About which one? Oh, Study? Yeah. For my second class, I took 2 levels two levels in Spiritus. Spiritus gives 2 free benefits. It increases my maximum mind points by 5. So as of right now, my mind points have been increased by 16 points, which is really, really nice. It says I can also perform rituals whose effects fall within the ritualism discipline, which I'm not super familiar with that yet, but I think ritualism are more general rituals. With that, I took Healing Power. When I cast a spell that targets one or more allies that you have an arcane weapon equipped, you may have each of those allies recover an amount of hit points equal to a skill level, multiplied by the number of bonds you have. Now I'll determine bonds in play. I only took 1 level of this because I only have 2 levels in Spiritus, and I also wanted Spiritual Magic, which you can also gain up to 10 levels in. Each time you acquire this skill, learn 1 Spiritus spell. They're on the next few pages. Offensive Spiritus spells use Insight plus Willpower for the magic check. We'll get into what those mean in a minute. The spell I chose was Heal for my first spell, and that is you invigorate your companions, soothing their pain and healing their fatigue. Each target recovers 40 hit points. The amount increases to 50 hit points if you are level 20 or higher, or 60 when you're level 40 or higher. I can target up to 3 creatures. It's instantaneous, and it costs 10 times T, where I believe T is the target?
Per target. Yep. So if you're casting that spell onto 3 different individuals, it'll cost you 30 MP to cast it, but each of those characters would heal for 40 HP. And the thing I would like you to know is that this spell, since if you'll notice that the spells have like this little lightning next to the name, some of the spells, those are offensive spells.
Yeah.
Those that have the lightning require magic checks. Heal automatically just happens. You just spend the MP and you got it happening.
Badass.
Excellent. All right, so we're already formulating your character, being the Lore Master Spiritist. Dave, what about you? What about your character? What do you see?
I think so. I'm going to be the bad player that showed up without his homework done. So, just building once again off of those themes and concepts. So I really Fury is definitely sticking out to me as a must-have. I really like the idea. The idea I have in my head is those anime characters, that like they're constantly getting their butts kicked, and as they're getting fired up, they're getting hit, and then they come back stronger. Those the kind they always kind of throw up in the anime. Those they said the young, like full of just that piss and vinegar. So I'm really liking some of these skills I'm seeing here, the adrenaline, frenzy, things like that. So I kind of like that kind of being, in my mind at least, like a core concept for it. And kind of, are we branching out to the techno fantasy classes as well here?
Yes, you can. I was going to suggest though, if you want someone that takes those hits and as they get, more hurt, they become stronger. Turn to page 184 of the core book. I think you're going to like that class.
Let me pull it up. I've got the PDF here.
For all the people that are listening out there and don't have the book in front of them, it's for the Dark Blade.
This is the emo warrior that one my friend talks about.
This is the emo warrior, which the great part is that Shadow Strike is one of the abilities that they have, which is great. Also, Painful Lesson. After another creature causes you to lose hit points, you may immediately perform the steady check. It's basically like every time that you're in crisis, every time that you've lost hit points, this character becomes much more stronger. And with the addition of like a Fury character to it, oh gosh. Woe be to those who stand against you.
All right, we can definitely we'll give him the emo side. We'll make him the we'll give him the emo goth angry boy look to him. Give him a little spiked hair that always he's brushing back. All right, so but I did also like the idea of him having some. We talked about him being from the Slag, being kind of a factory for mecha. So I kind of wonder if we can squeeze Mecha Pilot in there somehow.
Well, the good thing is that technically speaking, you can actually start off with access to 3 classes when you start the game. Mm-hmm. So you can go ahead and define which one do you think would be like the more focused in one, like of the classes that you would really want to focus in, your character into, and then which ones would be kind of like secondary to that.
Like you said, Fury, I think definitely kind of touches on like at least that youthful aspect. I do like what you were saying with Darkblade. So maybe that's, we talked about those themes of hope versus anger for him. Maybe that's creeping into his stuff. So I kind of I like kind of how the classes can also build into that character aspects there. So I think we'll go with your suggestion there. Maybe Fury as kind of the start here. So what do we pick from there? What are the skills we got here? So permanently increase your maximum hit points by 5. Gain the ability to equip martial melee weapons and martial armor. And maybe you want would you suggest adrenaline maybe as maybe one? I'd say two levels in Fury. So maybe adrenaline and let's see, maybe indomitable spirit.
That would work. So when you spend 1 or more Fabula points, you gain an additional benefit. Choose one option: recover SL skill level times 5 hit points, or you recover skill level times 5 mind points, or you recover from a single status effect of your choice. Not too shabby.
That's really nice. Fuck. That's really cool.
I will say that most of the individuals I see kind of picking up Fury and Darkblade, just because they want to take the hits all the time, constantly, will grab Provoke. That's just like one of those things where it's just like the moment that they attack, it's like, no, you're gonna attack me. Come on, bring it on, and just take the damage. Just again to try to get stronger. But yeah,
I mean the thing is because I'm trying to keep it because I know with Mecha Pilot, the 2 I was looking at were personal vehicle and compression tech. So I'm kind of thinking I could go 2-2 and then maybe start getting into Darkblade like that 1.
Yeah,
so,
for sure.
Mean, I would like to take Provoke, but I don't know. I feel like Adrenaline would definitely be something core to it. As long as you're in Crisis, you deal like. So I'm not sure what Crisis is in this game.
When you're Crisis is when you're half of your hit points.
Okay, so we'll go ahead. We'll just do Provoke and Indomitable Spirit then. Keep those 2. We'll do those for Fury. Mecha, like I said, Mecha, you again permanently increase the max hit points by 5, so it'd be a little durable. And I like the idea of the personal vehicle and compression tech, so kind of that Iron Man style thing, though he is not, in my mind at least, as he's not a boy genius here. I kind of get the impression he may have stolen this, or this is something Dad was working on, and he just kind of snuck into the lab and grabbed it, and all of his anger. So I like the idea that he just has this really cool piece of tech that he's not quite certain what to do with there. And then Darkblade, did you say was the one you recommend, the Shadow Strike?
Shadow Strike, always a banger with the Dark Blades. That one, as soon as you drop it, it causes you to actually deal more damage with your strike, and all the damage dealt is dark damage.
Once again, max hit points by 5, so he's definitely coming in there as a tough cookie. All right, so there we go. We've got Fury 2, Mecha Pilot 2, and Darkblade 1.
So
Just letting the emo creep in.
I was looking at the Mecha Pilot and I'm a little confused. You took strong grip and compression tech, Dave?
No. The personal vehicle and compression tech.
Okay, I didn't hear you say the personal vehicle, and I was reading it because it's really cool, and I was a little confused because I think you need personal vehicle for compression tech to do anything, right?
Correct.
Okay.
I feel like personal vehicle is going to kind of be that one that you have to take almost for this.
Yeah.
Well, it's the one that actually allows you to start building up your frame for your character. So you're going to be seeing that it says that on the next few pages, there's going to be modules. You get to select a frame, and you get to select 3 different modules. And whenever you gain the skill, you'll get to get an additional 2 modules to the frame itself. So you can actually take your time, look at the modules that you think you would want for your character, for your frame, and basically start putting that together. But I mean, at least now you know what your classes are. You have kind of an idea and a direction of where your characters are going.
Yeah.
Well, that way. Whatever way makes John pull his hair out.
So what is next?
So the next thing we're going to be talking about is everybody's favorite, your attribute scores. Yay!
Yeah.
Attribute scores. Attribute scores come in dexterity, insight, might, and willpower. So if you actually are in the core book, for anyone that is listening, the attributes are actually found, I believe, on page... Sorry, I don't remember this page 100%. There you go. 162. So if you go to page 162, it will give you an explanation as to what the attributes are. Dexterity measures precision, coordination, finesse, and reflexes. Insight represents observation, understanding, and reasoning. Might is a measure of strength, resilience, and physical fortitude. Willpower represents determination, charisma, and the ability to influence others. So this game goes ahead and says, hey, we're going to give you an array, 3 arrays, choice. You guys get to pick which of the arrays you would want for your character. So just to explain the arrays, the Jack of all trades is D8s across the board. So you have 4 D8s that you can plug in to represent your attributes. You have the average, which is a D10, 2 D8s, and 1 D6. And then the specialized, which is 2 D10s and 2 D6s. What is the significance of D6s versus D10s or any other die? D6s tend to be the lowest. Your range for successes is going to be a little bit more tougher. And usually D6s are kind of like the dump stat. I don't want to say dump stat because every stat technically is not a dump stat, but it's kind of like the lowest rung on the ladder. You can't go any further than a D6. And if you have like D10s, comparatively speaking, you'll have a greater chance and success of your abilities to be able to take action. So it depends on how you want to put your attributes. Since we asked Logan about his classes last time, we're going to go ahead and turn our attention to Dave. Dave, which of the 3 arrays do you think your character would be using, and how would you distribute those attributes?
I think we're gonna go with average. Just I like kind of going with that one. I'm stuck between if it's going to be might or willpower that gets to D10, but I'm fairly certain D6 is going straight into insight there. This does not seem to be a high thinking. I'm not going to say he's dumb, but he's just not. he's very much going to be like, I'm doing what I want to do. Like I said, we're going to build up those themes of anger.
Reckless, impetuous, impatient, rash,
Oh yeah. He's
hot-headed.
going to get along He's getting along fabulously. Character, they're going to be best buds.
Oh, I'm sure they will. Actually, that's the problem.
These two characters are definitely butting heads. So we're gonna go insight D6, which I think will leave dexterity as a D8. Let's go with, we've got a lot of hit points there. We'll go with might as a D8, and then willpower is going to be that D10. This will how does that straighten out in your mind there, John?
No, that totally works. So once you kind of settle upon these attributes, understand first and foremost, once you select your dice for your attributes, it's not going to change until you get to like level 20 when you actually get to bump up one of the attribute dice. But the other aspect is that you can also find items that can increase your attributes as you go along. But for the most part, that's going to be your numbers for at least 20 levels of the game. So right at this moment, I need you to go ahead and on the following page, it kind of starts giving out or dishing out the equations you need in order to determine your hit points, your crisis score, as well as your maximum mind points. When you have a chance, it's going to be your maximum hit points are equal to your total character level plus 5 times your character's base might die size.
So what's that going to be? So we've got might is D8, so 5 times 8, I'm guessing, is what we're going?
5 times 8?
You're going to make me do math. That is horrible.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to do it. I failed at math.
So we're going to go with 40 plus total character level, so that's 5 at this point, so 45.
45, and remember you have those additions. I think you got 10 total from Fury, and from Darkblade you got an additional 10 points in HP.
I think they all give plus 5 HP.
Also the pilot. Let me check. Yeah, so you're right. Oh, okay. So you should be at 60, I believe.
Yeah,
somewhere around that ballpark.
Tough cookie.
So yeah, your crisis score is going to be 30. And then your mind points are equal to your total character level plus 5 times your character's base willpower die size.
Which is, we got the D10, so that's going to be 50. That's an easy math equation. And then we're also going to do, 5, plus, so 55.
55, so that's 55 MP. All right, so we're going to turn now towards Logan. What dice array did you pick for your character?
For her, I went specialized. I put my D6s in dexterity and might. I'm kind of envisioning her as having a cane from a war injury to make her not as super dexterous as she used to be. And she's not in her prime anymore, so her might has gone down. But the 2 D10s have gone to insight and willpower.
Nice. All right, so let's go ahead and calculate what the hit points are going to be, which is, again, equation. Total character level plus 5 times your character's base might die size. Sorry.
Okay, so 5 times might, so that's 5 times 6, that's 30, plus 5 for 35 HP.
Correct. Your crisis score is going to be half of that.
That is what? 17?
Somewhere like 17, 18. Somewhere
you round down. You round down for crisis, don't you?
Yeah.
So 17, yeah.
And then your mind points are equal to your total character level plus 5 times your character's base willpower die size.
So base is 10 times 5, 50, 55, plus 16.
And then, correct.
So 71.
So you have a massive pool of mana points or mind points. All right, so that is going to be the arrays as we're figuring out our characters. And by the way, Dave, we're almost to the end.
Like, what did I do? I relish all moments with you, Jarn.
It looks like we still need to do inventory points, defense, magic defense, and initiative.
Correct. So I'm going to make it much, much easier for you. Initiative. So if you look in the book, in the core book, you're going to see that there is initiative. Thing is that the writer of the book, Emmanuel Gayeto, I might be mispronouncing the name. He has actually been creating and developing a lot of test materials that he likes to try out to see things that would work for his systems. That's why before the High Fantasy Atlas came out, or the Techno Fantasy Atlas, or the Natural Fantasy Atlas came out, you actually had access to them. He would offer it free to all players to try it out, to see what would stick and what would work. One of the things that people realize is that initiative bogs down the game. And so he said, you know what we're going to do? We're going to just get rid of initiative. That is no longer going to be a thing. So when you're playing Fabula Ultima, TTRPG, they try to emulate the JRPG feel of games back in the day. So what they do is, as long as there's no villain in the scene, the players always get to go first. The players decide who amongst their group gets to go. Then the opponent goes. Then the players get to decide who in the group again gets to go. Of course, if a player's already taken a turn, they shouldn't be able to take another turn within the same round. And so on and so forth until you get to the end of the round. If there's a villain, the opponents get to go first. Normally the villain who would be leading the charge. So inventory or initiative, we're not even going to think about that. Okay. We're just going to skip right over that. So inventory points and magic and defense magic. Defense and magic defense. I don't know why I spoke weird. Sorry. It's late and you guys have me doing the maths. I'm spent here.
We're almost done. We're doing great. I feel like we're all showing our age a little bit. It's like, ooh, it's 10 o'clock.
Whoa, it's 10 o'clock. I gotta go to bed.
I go to work.
So real quick, inventory points. You're going to start off with 6. Unless your classes provide any further inventory points, you're going to be starting off with 6. Real quick, Logan, you've been paying attention to the class. What are inventory points? How can players use inventory points?
I believe it's, if I'm understanding it correctly, and I might be wrong, it is unequipped items that you can store like in a quote-unquote backpack. It is slots for items.
You get a star.
And items can have one to however many slots they take.
Inventory points are abstract points system just to keep track of what items your character has. Let's say that Dave's character, his mecha, falls out of the sky, falling on top of one of the massive factories. At this point, Dave's character is kind of straddled between his mecha and falling and plummeting to his doom. At this point, Dave comes out and says, well, you know what? My character had rope on him this entire time. Me as a GM, I would look over and be like, did he really? And it's just like, yeah, I'm spending some inventory points. Inventory points, they're just meant to be abstract ways of keeping track of inventory on your character. So all classes start off with 6 inventory points. It might be changed by classes that you pick up along the way. If none of your classes do that, then you're fine. You're good to go. Defenses. We're looking at your defense is equal to your current dexterity die size. This can be modified by armor and equipment that you wear. But right now, since we're just kind of putting these characters together, your defense is equal to your current dexterity die size, which I do believe for David's D8. And for Logan, I believe it's D6.
Yes.
All right. And then finally, your magic defense is equal to your current insight die size, which I believe for Logan, that's going to be D10. For Dave, that's like a D4, maybe D2.
Did you just...
It's just a D.
It's a D. It's just D1. There you go. Like, we're not even rolling. You hit him with magic, he just crumbles.
So that is going to be the next spot on the list of how to create your characters. We're almost done. We're down to the last 2. This is going to be down to the race. So, or down to the wire, I should say. So number 7. This game allows your character to start off with 500 Zenit. Zenit is the currency that is found in every single Fabula Ultima adventure that exists. It is just their base currency. You can start off with 500 Zenit to buy and purchase equipment. Once you have purchased your equipment, anything that's left over is gone. Then you get to add. Oh, sorry, it's not gone. Wrong game I'm talking about. In this game, once you spend your 500 Zenit, whatever's left over, you get to go ahead and add it to a 2d6 times 10, which is going to determine the initial savings that your character has had up until this point within the adventure of Zenit. So, we don't have to spend too much time. Equipment, you have armors. It's not... Fabula Ultima tries to make it as streamlined as possible. You have weapons, you have your armors, shields, as well as accessories. Your character can equip one of each. For the most part, armors raise up your defense up to, I think, like maybe 12 or something to that effect. And again, as you go along and finding legendary armors, it will increase it even further. Weapons come in a whole array of different weapons. The only thing you really need to know about weapons is specifically is the weapon melee or is the weapon ranged? Because anything that's flying or anything that has like special abilities to kind of avoid attacks tend to be avoiding most physical damage or melee damage, tend to be, again, something that you would have to attack ranged. Here's actually a question for you, Dave. Let's see how much of your RPG knowledge we can get in here. You go ahead, you're standing next to Logan's character. Logan's character has a ranged weapon. You don't. You're fighting in your mech. You have 2 giant gloves. Your mech fights with gloves. You're like a rock'em sock'em robot. At this point, a monster, an opponent, is right in front of you. If the opponent has flying between the two of you, who can hit the opponent, who can't?
Assuming Logan would be the one to hit him.
Correct. Logan's the only one can hit him with the ranged attack. Now, what if the monster has a ranged attack and is aiming for Logan, but you, since you have Protect on Darkblade, you want to go ahead and deflect the attack? Can you deflect a incoming ranged attack? Yes or no?
I assume so. You can always do that in JPRGs with your melee weapon.
See, you got to start to.
That's the thing. You got to be the.
Well, the only thing is that they don't have like in some JRPGs, they have like the front ranks and back ranks and everything else in between. This game, you basically can have everybody scrambling around. Again, it's more abstract than anything else. It's just literally for heroes or players attacking opponents. You have to be wary as to if range attacks can or cannot hit. With the opponents, normally if you have like Protect and stuff like that, you can defend or deflect range attacks without problem. And so I'm going to allow you guys to look up equipment, kind of purchase it for your characters, put it all together. But that's something you can do on your own time. It's nothing that we need to share right now. Again,
actually,
really simple.
Actually, really quick, can we go through this custom weapon I made for Techno Fantasy? Just to make sure I did it right?
Ooh, custom weapons.
Yeah, because I'm just taking a Sage Robe, so that's basic armor, that's fine. But the custom weapon, I'm doing that because I figure they still have their weapon tech from the war. And I'm calling it an Arcane Orb, so it belongs to the Arcane category. It's a one-handed weapon. It's not martial. It's ranged. So,
custom weapons cannot be one-handed. They have to be two-handed.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. Then it's two-handed. It doesn't really matter. I didn't take another weapon anyway. I do. Well, no, I think it's small, but it contains energy, and so it's manipulating magic, using science to manipulate magic. So I imagine when it's in use, it floats and glows in front of her. And she has to use both of her hands to wield it.
So real quick, just to let everybody know, custom weapons is actually one of these rules, optional rules that came in the later books. It actually started in the High Fantasy Atlas, where players can actually create weapons that are a little bit more specific to what they want for their characters rather than your basic fare of weapons. The only thing, though, is that it does have a few drawbacks, but it does give you the ability to enjoy a couple of like extra or unique things about the weapon to initially start off with. And so the main drawbacks of custom weapon is that they have to be two-handed. They're going to cost at least base 300 Zenit. You can choose between the melee and ranged for your weapon. They cannot be martial weapons. You can customize it into a martial weapon, but again, that's picking up the customization for it as you go along. And the accuracy checks are going to be either dexterity insight or dexterity might, depending on what your choice is.
Yes.
Oh, it also deals physical damage equal to HR plus 5.
What is
And that can
HR?
change depending. Highest roll. So in
Highest
this game,
roll plus 5.
when you,
Okay.
yes, you're going to be rolling 2 dice all the time. If when you're dealing damage, it's going to always be HR plus whatever your bonus is to the weapon or to the ability that you're using. HR is going to be the highest roll died or rolled. Highest die rolled.
Perfect. So for accuracy, I chose Dex plus Insight. Because I figure I didn't want Might because it's low. So I think the Insight with it being her being healing based and this being like the combat medic weapon tool made a lot of sense. Damage HR plus 5. My 3 customizations is I chose accurate, so it adds plus 2 to the weapon's accuracy check formula, so that's Dex plus Insight plus 2, which is not bad.
Excellent.
I chose elemental and I chose light. It deals light damage instead of physical,
and it deals an extra 2 damage.
Yeah, so that's HR plus 7. Which is nice. And then for my third one, I chose defense boost. It gains a plus 2 bonus to defense, and you're treated as having a shield equipped for the sake of your skills. What does that mean exactly?
So, depending on some classes, like Guardian, if you have a shield, it actually helps you out. It gives you a little bonus when you have a shield equipped. In this case, it won't do much for you in that regard, but it is considered a shield for all intents and purposes.
Well, I'm actually okay with that. My defense was a 6, now it's an 8, which I feel a little bit more comfortable with because of my low HP. And then it was 300 Zenit for that. That was 300 of my 500. My Sage Robe / combat uniform was the other 200, so I spent all 500.
All right. And so now you get to roll 2d6, right? No, 2d10? 2d10. 2d6 times 10. That's what I was thinking of. 2d6 times 10. And that's going to determine the initial savings that your character starts off with.
I got 70.
Nice. And so finally, so yeah, I'm not going to press upon Dave to go ahead and start picking out equipment for his character, but we are going to move to the ultimate and final question of your character, which is going to be describe what your character looks like. Choose a name for them and their pronouns.
I do have a question. Are we doing quirks?
Quirks is something we're going to be doing, but this is I'm just trying to cover the first 8 basic tenets of character creation, okay. And then I'll talk about quirks in a quick moment right afterwards.
Okay.
So Dave, who is this character of yours? Describe him to me, please. I need to know.
Put me on the spot like this. So like I said, we're gonna go with some nice little, stables for anime and JPRPGs. I think gonna have that nice little dark. We're gonna go with the dark spiky hair. He's got that emo kind of look to him. Probably gonna be on the. I think he'd be on the smaller side. We're gonna pull in the small angry energy. This is always going to be someone that's kind of animated. He's very just in your face. Always yelling about the injustice of the upper levels of the corporate world bearing down on him. His clothing is probably well put together. He's not from a poor area of the city. The slag does have money. It's a factory thing, but it's not going to be very flashy. So you're looking at the nice sturdy overcoat, the worker boots that are probably never laced. Kind of has that like Devon feel to it. Like I'm too busy to make this look professional. Which he's not worried about being professional anyway. We're tearing on the system. Why do I need to dress up to it? So I think that kind of like gives out that vibe for him, that energy. So I think that's a pretty good starting place for description on him.
All right. Do you have a name for him and or pronouns?
Well, it's gonna be he, him. We'll go with them. Um, I don't know. I usually turn to my trusty name generators for these kind of things, which as you know, has got me in trouble with a couple of the characters I brought to your game before. As one of our other players will continually make fun of my character using 2 last names.
No, but it's
Um,
great. It gives your character depth.
that character has enough depth. Uh, you know what? Let's go with something kind of fitting for the slag. It may not even be his actual name. We're gonna go with Ash. We'll pull off the Pokemon vibe there. But I think Ash would work. I think that would be something he'd pick. You know, he'd try to stay in that cool vein of the slag. He's Ash.
Nice. I can almost envision him with like a leather jacket. He probably has like some patches or things like that he's picked up along the way, probably from like the local community or like
Hot
local
topic.
gangs. It finds a way even in your hot topic. Malls will no longer exist, but a hot topic always will. All right,
That's what it has to
awesome.
be.
And so, Logan, we're turning to you real quick.
Right.
About your character.
Her name is
Characters.
Isla Danvers Niece Storms. I think her husband died in the war. I think they were in the same combat unit. Her. She is very tall, very Nordic looking, I think. Blonde hair that she keeps long now that she's not in the military. Softer than you'd imagine, I think. But like a very stone cold gaze that like no one actually fucks with. They try to, and she tilts her head and gives one look, and people kind of second guess that that desire to try to do something to her. Very resolute. She walks with a cane that has a crystal orb on the top of it. I think the whole thing is probably her is the weapon, but it looks like a cane because when they were performing in the field, they would plant the cane, the orb would grow, and they would use their hands to cast magic and heal, and I think that's just what it is. But she's kind of found a way to use it practically as well.
Gotcha. And so, at this point, both of you have officially created your first characters for Fabula Ultima. With the exception of Dave, he still needs to kind of find out the items that he's going to be buying for the character for poor Ash. But no, technically speaking, by all intents and purposes, you guys have created your first characters in Fabula Ultima. And again, I must stress this out. It is not as engaging without that first session of putting together world. And as you guys build the world together, it adds more elements to where your character, where they fundamentally come from. Again, something we noticed that this book did not mention or ask. They didn't ask about species or peoples because it kind of leaves it to you guys as your world building to add in those aspects. And so in one of my other games, I have, these one of the players came up with these rock-like monsters like golems called Meloks. And for those part, there was just like, oh yeah, they when they spring out of the ground, they pick up whatever element they're around. So if they're in mud, they look like mud. They have mud. If they're, if they spring up like in a patch filled with, foliage, they'll take up, like aspects of the foliage and everything else in between. And one of our players, who their character passed away very recently due to some bad dice rolls, ended up creating a funny little cactus character that everybody's like, oh my god, you're a cactus. Like, no, I'm a Melloc. I'm not a cactus. But they're a cactus with a little hat and a bandana and also like a little whip. And I'm just like, that works. That works.
And that's very JPR. That's very much in line with that game style.
Oh yeah. No, the moment that she introduced the character, I was like, the first thing in my mind was like, oh my god, it's Domingo from Shining Force. Like that's what we're having here. But before we finish off your character creation and get you guys underway at the table, we need to talk about something else that is a little bit special to Fabula Ultima, introduced again at the Atlas of High Fantasy. which are quirks. Quirks are unique abilities or aspects of your character that enhances your character. Now, it does say it in the book. Quirks can give your characters a lot of power to start off with, and it might be unbalancing for some of the opponents you might face, some of the obstacles you're meant to face. But I have always found quirks to be so fun. And so, if you're looking at the Techno Fantasy book, for anyone listening on one page 120, your quirks start off. And so there are multiple quirks that you can look at in order to kind of get an idea for your character. So I'm going to look at the first one real quick just to kind of give you an idea of what it brings. This first quirk is known as Agitator. When you rest inside or near a settlement, you may choose one option. You learn what the locals are mainly angry about. Oh, this is perfect for Dave. Or afraid of. Or you create a contact that lives and operates in this area. Give them a name and specialization, and the GM tells you what they ask of you. They might request a payment or need help. So yeah, a quirk. Imagine you have now this option that if you go ahead and you're next to a settlement, you can actually determine what the settlement, what it is that they're the opinion overall of the people of the settlement. Or you can just say, yeah, I know a person. His name is Bob. He lives right there, and now Bob is there, and we have to add Bob into this world. So quirks have the ability to do all these sorts of different things. Logan, what quirk do you think your character would have?
I went ahead and chose Survivor. I think this is one of my favorite parts of the character creation. I think it's that final stamp or button, or when you finish a Lego set, it's the last Lego you press and it just kind of makes it all congeal together. I chose Survivor. You're one of the few who survived a catastrophic event. I think Isla has a limp, which is why she uses her weapon as a cane. I think she was probably the only person to survive from her Valkyrie unit. I think that would be what the combat medics were called, Valkyries. It feels very JRPG. And I think she keeps in touch with a few people from the military, but she's mainly cut herself off completely from that life because of what it took from her. And she's trying to figure out how to rebuild and be a better person and live up to those ideals that I mentioned earlier. But with taking it, I permanently increase my maximum hit points and mind points by 5. So that takes my HP to 40 and my MP to 76. And then I can choose one option, gain the ability to equip martial melee and ranged weapons, martial armor and martial shields, or learn any one spell from the elementalist or spiritist lists. Or you can permanently increase your maximum inventory points by 2. I chose to add a second spiritist magic because I wanted another combat capable thing that wasn't so tied into her might. And I chose the spell Lux, which deals light damage. The spiritist. So Lux is 10 times target, up to 3 creatures, instantaneous. You focus your energy into a barrage of blinding soul rays. Each target hit by this spell suffers highest roll plus 15 light damage. And then opportunity, each target hit by this spell suffers dazed. And I just figured for the Valkyries, that was chef's kiss.
Oh, it's amazing. It's actually, Lux is a really good spell, and it definitely works against anything that's vulnerable to light, which are usually the undead or, sort of demonic creatures. Some demonic creatures that are out here in this game definitely is going to be hurting them. So definitely great choice.
I think it also kind of informs a little bit about whatever conflict this was for Emir. They were dealing with dealing with darkness, something with death, something the antithesis of of light, more or less, whatever that may be, is kind of the idea that I was maybe thinking.
Ooh, that is interesting. Now I see the Abalist over here, and I'm thinking, So at this point, we're going to turn real quick towards Ash. Ash, what do you think your quirk would be?
You already laid out the agitator there, so it definitely, I like it. I like the agitator, honestly, because I think it does help also build a resistance movement idea. It kind of adds to the game in that sense, because like I said, you always know someone, so I could definitely see Ash as part of this. I'm gonna budge up the word here, this blossoming rebellion movement. I could definitely see adding that element into the game a bit with the GMs, obviously, with their approval and their consent. But I definitely would like that. Like, I add that little thing in there, and so he's always like, talking to people. I mean, I definitely would view him as kind of like this fringe element to the thing, kind of like the one they're like, oh yeah, that's that kid. Just let him. He'll go off and make some trouble. So he always knows someone in there. They're always willing to kind of guide him. Like, oh, just aim him that way, and he'll blow something up. So I like that idea for him.
Nice. And so then at this point, you're now officially ready to jump into the techno fantasy and start playing the game.
We
And-
have one thing, I think. So I don't know if I'm kind of, so we're old people up late. So the mecha, building the actual personal vehicle. So is it just you like you said, you pick the frame and then you just pick 3 modules to go with it?
Correct. So if you look at actually the list for the mecha, you get to pick the frame. It has different frame sizes, and the sizes bring like little bonuses or benefits. And then you also get to pick modules for your frame. This would be something that, again, I would offer to the players to kind of like read up, kind of get an idea as to what frame they want to build for their character. Also, what kind of frame, like how do you envision this mecha? Because it could be like a super powered suit, a la like Tony Stark and Iron Man in the MCU, or it could be like a full-fledged mech, outfit where you're kind of like an armored core flying around, shooting, all your weapons and everything else in between. So it's something that I would actually offer to the players to kind of like read over, decide what they would like to get, or sit down with a GM and kind of have a conversation like, oh, what is it that you think, would be working well for your character and for the mech that they're trying to put together. But aside from that, no, I think for the majority, like at this point, technically speaking, there's nothing stopping us from jumping in and actually start playing the game. With the exception that you haven't chosen your mech abilities or you haven't bought your outfits and your weapons, so your character literally just has nothing right now. But
You're
that's
naked,
that's Dave.
Dave. Ash is
That's
naked
Dave
as a
for you.
jaybird. Naked as a jaybird.
I definitely could see him popping up.
That's
naked,
why
running
he's so
into the
angry.
tavern. And
That's why
there's
he's so
anger.
angry.
Look, I love these two characters we have. I can definitely see a lot of headbutting and a lot of like funny. This is almost like comical interaction you see in the animes and the JPRPGs. I do love that they both have D10 willpower, so that would definitely make them yelling at each other consistently. I want to ask though, John, like as from someone that's GM'd this, how difficult is this for like a new player or new GM to kind of get into? I mean, do you think there's a high bar, or is this like a pretty you could kind of jump in here?
So, in all honesty, I feel from the player perspective, I feel this is an easy game to jump in. The mechanics of the game aren't difficult enough. I think, the one thing I would probably say might cause there to be a little hesitation on the player side is when you give players too many options, they always get overwhelmed, And so at this point, when you're in a situation where it's just like, okay, you're at this obstacle. How do you get across the obstacle, or how do you get past the obstacle? In this game, since it gives you like projects, rituals, all these ways of navigating, a solution, I find that players tend to kind of like, oh, I just wanted the basic thing, basic attack. Can I attack the thing? Is that something I can attack? But once they realize what they can do, Fabula points, my people. Fabula points. You can literally alter the story as you're playing the game, and this has happened on several occasions with my other groups where they'll change, and it's funny to me because they'll change like the smallest of details, smallest little detail, and at the same time, it's just like sometimes they'll go ahead and they'll be like, oh no, we really need to survive, so we're gonna like make this effort to spend a Fabula point to make a big change that is going to dramatically affect the game. Now, technically speaking, rules as written, Fabula points only have a limited scope in terms of what they can do. They can't like change outright the whole narrative as the GM is presenting it, depending on the GM is okay with it, whatever kind of scenario. But I tend to give the players a lot of respect and due when they spend the Fabula points, and mostly when they want to change it for a way that is meaningful for their characters. I had this other story that had this one character that he shows up to this. So I had a player who wanted to join, helped create the world, and dropped out the next session, like couldn't join anymore. So we had on this map this massive city that was this player's creation that I had no idea what to do with it. Now, of course, I could come up with something, but I said, you know what? When they get to the city, I'm going to have each of them participate in adding certain aspects to the city. And so, oh my gosh, they came up with the golden saucer from Final Fantasy VII. They came up with these tunnels with books, that the books are actually alive, and over time the books start consuming each other because they want more knowledge of themselves and everything else. So all these crazy ideas. And then one of the players comes out, and I start setting up the adventure, and like they're walking through the city. And one of the players goes, I go, oh, there's a contingent of bad guys. Like, you see the bad guys up ahead. What do you guys do? And everybody's freaking out because, of course, no one has like dexterity as being their main attribute. And they're like, oh, you can't sneak by. We're going to get caught. And one of the other player goes out and says, you know what? I'm going to spend a Fabula point. I'm like, oh, okay. What's the plan? My character knows a mage that actually lives in the city, and this mage has the means to get like from parts of the city, like they're a aspect of the city or a facet of of the city where they kind of know where everything's at, and they can actually like move throughout the city without a problem. And so we created a character on the spot of this young woman who happens to be a mage, and she uses chalk, and she walks up to a door and she uses a chalk to like write upon it, and it creates this teleporter that kind of moves her throughout the city, just in the city. She can't go anywhere else, but just in the city. And nice. It's just like, that's how they avoided combat with these the bad guys. So yeah, Fabula points, I think for a young player or new player to Fabula Ultima, I think that might be where you have a little bit of hesitation, just because you don't know what the limitations are. But you should test, honestly, pull a Dave, test your GM, do whatever you can, rattle that cage, see what the GM is willing to do. Again, in a respectful manner. You don't ever want to be mean, but rattle that cage, shake that boat. As for GMs, I'm going to say that the system itself is not difficult to understand the rules. The game does rely on a lot of improv and setting up like things immediately on the spot to try to get the game flowing. But even in those instances, I would say, talk to your players. At the end of the day, the player uses a Fabula point. All of a sudden, they have a dragon that shows up to become a friend of theirs, and the dragon's going to join in the fight. Like, yeah, you don't have this dragon statted out, but come up with something. It's you could tell the players, hey, give me a second, let me just come up with stats for the dragon, because Logan decided to bring in the dragon, guys, and so now we have to go ahead and kind of stat out this dragon, make sure we have this dragon statted so that you can fight. And then now it's Dave's turn. Dave rolls a crit. It's like, oh god, here we go again with this nonsense.
That's awesome. I do like that there's that nice improv feel to it.
Yes, no, the improv is going to be amazing. But it is 10:38 now. We've been going for a couple hours. I know it's late. I know I have work in the morning. I know we all have work and responsibilities. So thank you all for joining us. This will be exported to YouTube. Don't miss our session 0 on July 18th at 8 p.m. Eastern. Watch the Story Toad socials. We'll be posting about it in the week leading up to that. It's going to be on a Friday. This is, again, going to be 10, roughly, sessions. Session 0 is on the 18th, and then we'll kind of give you the schedule breakdown after we do that. Please hop onto our Discord. On our website, you have links to our Discord, to all of our socials. Come check us out. Come join us on the Discord, and we cannot wait for you to join the next AP from The Story Told. Thank you so much for tuning in, everyone. Have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your night, and bye.
Laters.